We should only have this type. Okay, so at least let's learn bisalil in the Neshama. Okay, so what are we doing? Summer Zion tonight, right? Yeah, Summer Zion. Right? Where do we leave off? Oh, we left off Ramachan partially wet and part of the way down. Okay, well, before we continue, how is it working now with Friday that it's getting so short? So I was thinking we do like a block.
My son doesn't plan on going anywhere, so maybe this week I could do it. My son doesn't plan on driving anywhere.
God, Peretz, it has to do with tonight's stuff, shtickle, if we get to it. So I was thinking we should do a little bit more than a blot and change tonight, and then like tomorrow we could have like a 15-20 doing Amud. That's really yeah? Like this, we could learn 15 minutes. What's so funny? What's David? Why are you laughing?
I saw Harold Stern before. He was on for a second. So I WhatsApped him. I saw you. So that's what I'm laughing at. But, no, whatever you say. So we'll do more tonight in 15 minutes tomorrow.
Yes.
Can we talk about starting a few minutes later on Matzah Shabbos?
No way.
No we start like 20 minutes later.
They want to start
but I understand, Leo,
earlier.
when we change the clocks, you guys, 1 second. When we change the clocks, it goes to 2 hours. How does it go?
2 hours.
It goes to 2 hours.
How long was it now?
But we didn't change the clock yet.
No, I'm just saying it's in a couple of weeks, right?
Okay, but we don't have to prepare for it.
When do we change the clocks?
We should chaz it as
I
well.
only miss you by like 20 minutes now.
It's like November 1st or something.
Listen,
I
I don't
the
mind
first
pushing
Tuesday
it
in
to
November.
9 o'clock. I don't mind pushing to 9 o'clock Motzei Shabbos. That's up to the guys. I mean, 9 o'clock is what it's supposed to be. So.
Oh, I thought you were doing 9 o'clock now.
No, we've been doing a quarter to 9. All right, so forget it. We ain't doing it to 9:20.
No, I need like 9:20.
No way.
So sorry about that. We'll leave it at a quarter to 9. Meanwhile,
You chose to move there.
When Shabbos is over, Icky's
buy us all pizza, Motzei Shabbos. Then we'll have something to talk.
Oh, now you're talking.
When Shabbos is over early, can we just do it like right after Shabbos?
I don't see why not, but
Yeah, 9 o'clock is late for when Shabbos is over at like 5:11.
An hour later.
Yeah. We'll have to figure that out.
It's over 6:11 here in Boca, but yeah.
Because
Exactly. 9 o'clock is smack in the middle of a Saturday night at the movies. Why do you want to do that?
Exactly. That's the problem.
I don't listen. I don't. We got also Avos Abanim. The
Right.
new Saturday night on the movies.
But Zoom Avos Ubanim?
Thank you. But
Yeah, you just have two
What Avos
screens.
Ubanim?
Just have two screens. One's Avos Ubanim and one is
that are closed?
Yeah, you're right. Zoom Avos Abanim. I don't know. No, all I was saying is that they killed Saturday night at the movies now with the Avos Abanim thing. You know what I mean? Even if you want to go play ball Motzei Shabbos, you feel guilty because why am I not at Avos Abanim? You know what I mean? Whatever.
Not anymore.
They don't
Not
have to
anymore.
do all
You could
good
have,
things.
not anymore. You could have the Zoom in the corner playing ball. Zoom in the corner of a Sabanim playing ball with your kid.
Right.
I
Do what
showed
your
my-
kids do during the day. You could do at night. You could Photoshop the picture and they walk away until they get caught.
Perfect chinuch.
We
I
could learn
showed
from
my
them.
kids.
We
I
could
showed
learn
my
from
kids
them.
today. You do the picture-in-picture. I showed them. You put on the Gemara. I put them on the Art Scroll app, and then I put in the corner the baseball game. It's perfect. You get the both. You get the right because it has picture-in-picture. How's that for chinuch?
Yeah, they still don't let Zoom picture-in-picture though.
No, they don't. I don't know why
Yeah, they
Zoom
change.
doesn't allow picture-in-picture.
That's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah.
Hey, T.Y., you wanted me to swim on the share? I did it. See?
There you go. Ah, very good. From the pool. Okay, anyways, so let's chazar from yesterday. So Daf Samach Vav. Yesterday was a little bit of tough daf. So tonight, the end of the daf is very much more geschmack than the middle. So I want to make sure we can give the end of the daf a little bit more time. Right, so we had a question on Rabbi Yochanan whether Eruv Chatzer is the same as shehses reshus. Right, again, shehses reshus is renting from the guy. Then we said, no, it's not. The shehses reshus is different than Eruv Chatzer, meaning in how much money. Well, it's 3 places it's similar. That it's less than a shava pruta, etc., etc. Then Shmuel says the 3 scenarios where a chatzar may or may not be mevatel itself to another chatzar. Okay, Then Shmuel says bitul reshus from within a chutzah, but not from one chutzah to another, which we're going to get to tonight again. So we'll have to keep chazering that. Meaning, we know that you can be, if somebody forgets to be part of the Eruv, so he can just give up the rights to his property to everybody else, and it works. But it doesn't go from chutzah to chutzah. Rabbi Yochanan says you can transfer from chutzah to chutzah. Meaning, let's say a guy in Farakaway forgets to be part of the Eruv, right? So again, we don't have that nowadays because we do the Eruv on behalf of everybody. Right, but theoretically, if we didn't do that, so one guy in Farakaway forgets to be part of the Eruv, so he can give the rights to his reshus to everybody else. But what happens if the Bayswater Eruv, can we be mavatal our chotzer to the Bayswater Eruv so that we'd be able to carry from one to the other? So that's a machlokes Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says you could do it. Shmuel says you can't do it. That was the major din from yesterday. And then the machlokes Abaye and Rava, if Shmuel's din applies in a chotzer within a chotzer, and fine. Okay, so that's what we're up to. So now we're up to Samach Zayin Amud Aleph. By the 2 dots. Around 10 lines down. Is it 10 lines, Maish?
Oh yeah, where are we?
4, 5, 11 lines down.
2 dots. 2 dots.
2 dots. 2 dots, yeah? Fine. So Rav Chisda Rav Shehses. Yeah, so the blot at least right now starts off with something very interesting. Rav Chisda Rav Shehses. When Rav Chisda and Rav Shehses met each other, Rav Chisda Marasan Sifsasayim is misnisa the Rav Shehses. Rav Chisda's lips would shake or tremble, I guess, from Rav Shehses's bekiyas, right? For Rav Shehses, Marasan Kule Gufe Mipupuli the Rav Chisda, and Rav Shehses, his whole body shook from the sharpness of Rav Chisda. So basically, Rav Shehses was the bekiyas guy, not guy. Bekiyas, Rav Shehses was the bekiyas, was Bucky, I guess, a Bucky, right? And Rav Chisda was the Lamdan, right? And each one was scared of each other, right? Or why of the Bucky was scared of the Lamdan, and the Lamdan was scared of the Bucky. Yeah? Fine. So, now why it changes the lashon? Like why was one lips shaking and the other one's body already? That's a whole thing. So now Rav Chisda and Rav Shehses. Rav Chisda had a few shots, and Rav Chisda was the lamdan. So he had a few. He had Rav Chisda and Rav Shehses. He had a shaila from Rav Shehses. Shnei batim, shnei tzidei reshus haram. You have 2 houses on 2 sides of reshus haram, right? So 2 houses, one on either side of Ocean Parkway. Let's go with not L'chol Deis Reshus Harabim, but most opinions Reshus Harabim, right? One house on one side of Ocean Parkway, another house on the other side of Ocean Parkway. Obviously, they couldn't make an eruv with each other, right? Ubo Nachrim, then came along Goyim, V'kifum B'chitza B'Shabbos. So now the Goyim came and made a fence around it. Yeah? So the Goyim came and made a fence around it because they didn't want the Yidden socializing or something. So they built a fence around these 2 houses. So now, can you make that Eruv on Shabbos? Can they make an Eruv to walk with each other on Shabbos? To walk to each other on Shabbos? I'll leave it to Mandomer, ain't bitul reshus mechotzer lechotzer. So according to Shmuel, who we just said, holds that you're not allowed to be mavatal reshus from one chotzer to another chotzer, meaning you're only allowed to be mavatal reshus from one house to another house within a chotzer, but not from one yard to another yard. Loiti bailach. There's no question. When you were able to make an Eruv from yesterday, and you would have been able, you would have been able to make an Eruv. Amrit ain't bitul reshus mechotzer l'chotzer. Yet you still said you're not allowed to make a bitul of reshus from one yard to another yard. Hacha di'ibo laruve me'asmal. Here, in the case of the house on either side of Ocean Park, where you didn't even have the choice. Loi motzum arvi. Like Kol Shekain, that you're not allowed to, they're not allowed to be mevatel. Again, he's saying, if you, according to Shmuel, in a scenario where theoretically you could have been made an Eruv between 2 chatzeres, yet you don't allow them to do it if they forgot to do it before Shabbos. So here, where you're not able to do it on Shabbos, before Shabbos, because there was a reshus haramim in between the 2 houses, and then in middle of Shabbos it became, they eliminated the reshus haramim, built a fence around, so Kol Shekain, you wouldn't be able to. I'm asking according to Rabbi Yochanan, who says that you are allowed to be mavatal from one yard to another yard. Hasam dibo larui me esmol matzum arvi betuli nami matzum bibatels. If you were able to make the eruv on a Friday and you did it and you didn't do it, so then you're able to do it on Shabbos. But here, where you were not able to make the eruv from yesterday because Ocean Parkway ran in between the 2 yards, you say you're not able to be mevatel on Shabbos either. Or it makes no difference. If you have the ability to be mevatel on Shabbos, you're allowed to. So Amarle ain't mevatlin. You're not allowed to. Okay, so that's it. It's interesting because Rav Chisda Lamden asked this from Rav Shehses the Baki, and Rav Shehses gives him a 2-word answer, ain't mevatlin. And that's it. And Rav Chisda buys it. Right? He asks him a whole lamdish shayla, and then he just says, ain't mevatlin. Okay, finished. Right? Nothing more, no more shakal than that. He just accepts it. He just accepts it.
They were scared of each other, right?
I guess he was scared. I don't know. I don't know. It's just interesting that the Gemara first starts that he was scared. He gave him a 2-word answer, and that's all. We go weiter. It's like the shilas that they have to Reb Chaim Kanievsky, right? People work on all these shilas. They ask him, and then he gives a 2-word answer. Yes, no, maybe, this, and that's it. There's nothing more to say. Finished. I guess this is a precedence for that. Fine. That was shilah number 1. Meis nachri b'Shabbos ma'u. Now, this is talking about a case where they did not make an eruv, but they have a guy living in their yard, and they didn't make any sort of eruv, and then the guy dies on Shabbos. Okay, so now that the guy dies, now they can make an eruv, right? There's no issue of having a guy in your eruv. They decide, can we make an eruv now or not? Aliba the mandamar seichrin, like Tibayach. According to mandamar, it says you're allowed to rent from the guy on Shabbos, right? Like Tibayach, I'm not asking you. Hashta, meaning there's no shaila. Hashta tarti avdinon chadami boy. If you're allowed to do 2 things, meaning to be mavatal reshus and to rent the reshus from the guy on Shabbos. So then, if you're allowed to do both, so chadami boy, to just do one, do I have shaila? Of course I'm allowed to do one, which all it would require, now that the guy died, so the guy's not in the eruv, all it would require you to do is be mavatal reshus to each other. So that for sure is going to be okay. Halakiti boy, lach aliv the mandamar ain't soichrin. But I'm asking you, according to the mandamar, that says that you're not allowed to rent from the guy on Shabbos. Yeah? Tarti hu de loy avdinan. You're not allowed to do 2 things, which is to rent from him and to be mavatal reshus. Hochada avdinan. But one you're allowed to do, which is again all you need to do is one here because you're allowed to rent. You're allowed to be mavatal reshus on Shabbos. I do malish no, or it makes no difference. So Amarle ani aimer mavatlin. Hamnuna and mavatlin. I say that you can be mavatal, and Rav Hamnuna says you're not allowed to be mavatal. Okay, that was his answer. Okay, it's interesting. Here he said his opinion, and he said somebody else's opinion. Before he just said his opinion. Maybe everybody agreed in that case. Okay, so those were the 2 shilas that Rav Chisda asked Rav Shehses. Fine. New sugya. Amar Rav Yehuda Mashmuel.
Didn't we have, sorry, one question on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Didn't we have already in the past that if it has to be built, the eruv has to be built from before Shabbos in order to carry? So these 2 chatzeros, before Shabbos, they were separate chatzeros. The guy put it in the middle of Shabbos. So I understand we have to also ask on the part of the, giving the bread aspect of it, right? The fact that all the parties have to be involved, but the wall wasn't even up from before Shabbos to carry from one cluster to the other.
Right. So we said that if the eruv gets made by itself on Shabbos, then it's okay. Right?
Oh. Okay.
That's what we came out, right? If the eruv gets made by itself, then it's okay. So this, I guess, since Goyim made it, then it's allowed.
Got it. Okay.
That's what I think. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's see weiter. But it's good you remembered that. That's pretty impressive.
But it wouldn't be that since the guy was alive on Shabbos, he was alive when Shabbos started. So that's the status of it. He died later on.
Right. That's good for the shiloh. I don't know if that's good for the shiloh, but it sounds like that's part of the shiloh. Like, right? What it doesn't. You're saying it should retain its status of whatever it was from before Shabbos.
Yeah.
So I think that's part. I think that's part of the shiloh here. That now that the situation opened itself up, so then it'll be okay. But I think that's more the first shiloh than the second shiloh. I hear what you're saying. I hear, but okay. That is the same shiloh. Do we care? Do we not care about that? Yeah. Okay, so very good. So Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Nachri sheyesh a Pesach arba al arba, pasuach lebika. If a guy has an opening, 4 tfachim by 4 tfachim, that's opened up to a bika, to a field, right? Afilu machnes umoitzi gemalim v'kroines kolayim kuloi derech mavui. Even if a whole day he brings in his camels and his wagons through the mavui, ein oiser al b'nei mavui. He doesn't ask al b'nei mavui. Now, what's the scenario here? Basically, the guy lives in the mavui with the rest of the yidden. So we said you're not allowed to have the guy in the Eruv. You got to rent it from him. But he's got 2 entrances. He's got this 4 tfachim by 4 tfachim entrance that opens up into a huge field around the back. All right. So basically, he's like on the edge of town. So he's got an entrance that opens up into the street that he shares with all the Jews. He also has a back entrance that opens up to a huge field. So the Gemara is saying that even though he usually uses the mavui side entrance. That's usually the one he goes with, the mavui, which means that he's sharing it with Yidden. But since he has this big opening in the back, then we look at it like he can just use that opening and we don't have to rent the reshus from him. A very interesting din. What?
4 by 4 tefachim?
4 by 4, yeah, 4 by 4 tefachim, yeah. Yeah, it's very small. I don't know. I guess they were smaller back then, right? Maybe he's Mexican. I don't know.
He's
I don't know. It's small. It's small. Yeah. But anyways, again, so a guy, since he has this back entrance that opens up to a field, so he doesn't ask on the bnei mavui, and they can make an eruv even without renting. It's just my timer, 3 lines up in the bottom, my timer. It's easier for him to go in and out of the door. That's his and his only. Right? So that's the din. Again, because he has easier access, even though he may not use it, still we go with it. So then they had a karfef mahu. What happens if it's not a big, huge field? It's a karfef, which we said a karfef is usually based on sayim, right? But it doesn't mean we're going to get into the measurements in a minute. But a karfef means it's not a huge field, but it's a little area that people put storage there, put wood and all that. So it's not as big as a field. So what's the din then? So Amar Rav Nachman bar Ami b'shmei de Ulfana. Now Ulfana is not a name of a person, right? Rashi says Ulfana is Sheshama me Rabbi v'Rabbi me Rabbi. So Rav Nachman bar Ami is saying in the name, it doesn't mean Mishmei de Ulfana. It doesn't mean in the name of Ulfana. It means, I don't know exactly how to type it. Rav Nachman bar Ami saying that he learned over from his Rebbe, who got it from his Rebbe, Right, an ulpan. I think that's where the word ulpan comes from. Could that be? No, isn't an ulpan like what do you call it? Ulpan is to teach language?
To teach Hebrew.
Teach Hebrew or something. So here he's saying he heard this. Yeah, okay, whatever it is. Yeah. He got this from his Rebbe, Yeah? Oh, okay, that what? So afilo pasuch lekarfef. Even if it's open to a karfef, still he gets this, he would still, even though a karfef is not as big as a field, but it's easier for him to use that entrance and therefore it works. Yeah, fine. So Rabbi Rav Yosef Damar Tavayu, Nochri Beis Sayim Oyser, a Nochri, if he has Beis Sayim, 2 Beis, right, then he's going to aser the mavui, because that's not a big enough field for him. So if it's a guy that has the entrance through the back, so and it's only Beis Sayim, that's not so big, so it's not so easy for him to bring his stuff in and out of that field, therefore you're going to have to rent from him. But if he has an entrance to a field much bigger than a Beis Sayim, like we said, so it's easier for him to take the stuff in that way, you don't have to rent his property from him. But Yisrael is the opposite. Yisrael, Beis Sayim, Eino Oser. If it's Beis Sayim, it doesn't aser him, because Beis Sayim, we know you're allowed to carry in a karfef that's up to Beis Sayim, so he would use it. But if it's bigger than Beis Sayim, the Yid can't use that field on Shabbos because it's too big. So Mamela, it doesn't work. And you would have to, and if he forgets to be part of the Eruv, then he would have to be Mavatal his reshus. Was it open to a karfef? What's the din? If it's up to base assignment, it's also yosef base assignment, and it's more than base assignment, it doesn't answer. Fine. Okay, it's just the Gemara seems to be repeating the exact same thing, which is what Rav Huna answered, and we said base assignment it's also, right? If the field that's behind the yid's house is bigger than two base saw, then it's going to answer. The yosef base assignment ain't also. I'm sorry, no, that's going by the guy. That's going by the guy, not the yid, right? That's why bigger than base assignment is not also. Fine. Okay, now because of this, so now the Gemara gets into the dinam of carrying into a karfef. So it's very interesting because the Chachamim were stuck when they made a takana, right? That you're not allowed to carry in a karfef. Now, what is the din of a karfef? It's a karmelis, right? Karfef is a karmelis. Can you carry from a karmelis to a reshus harabim? It's a issa d'rabbanan. It's not an issa d'oraisa, right? But the problem is that they also said that they didn't want anybody carrying within a karmelis. So now the problem is now, if you tell somebody that you're not allowed to carry in a karmelis, then that's looked at like it's a reshus hayochid. And what happens if you carry something from the reshus harabim to the karmelis? That's also the chayra. That's the chayra also. So it's basically what is the status of this karfef / karmelis? So let's see. So Omar Ula Omar Rabbi Yochanan, karfef. If you have a karfef, yosem base assignment, it's bigger than two base saw. Shaloi hukav ladira, and it was not fenced for anybody to live in it. Like we said, the karfefs, big empty lands. Vafilu kur, even if it's the size of a kur. Vafilu kuraim, even if it's the size of two kur. Hazorik l'soicha chayev. If you throw something from a reshus harabim into the karfef, you are chayev. My timer. What's the reason? Right? Because let's see, my time. What's the reason? Mechitzahi. It's a mechitza. Elashem mechuseres tiyurin. It's just missing people that are living there. So meaning, what the Gemara is saying is really this karmelis. It's a reshus hayochid, right? It's a reshus hayochid. So if you carry from the reshus harabim into this karfef, you're carrying from reshus harabim to reshus hayochid. So if it's a reshus hayochid, why can't you carry in there? Right? Because it is. It's a private. It's not public.
Nobody lives there.
Right. So exactly. So since nobody lives there, they were afraid they made a gzer that you can't carry dalet amas. So if you can't carry dalet amas, so why are you chayiv from reshus harabim to reshus hayochid? Right. So the Chachamim, that was the problem that the Chachamim had. Right? So really they're saying that no, it's a reshus hayochid. So therefore, if you throw from reshus harabim into reshus into the karfef, you're going to be chayiv because it's a reshus hayochid. However, you still can't. If that's the case, reshus hayochid. So why can't I carry dalet amas in there? The answer is because they made a gezerah because they didn't want people carrying in karmelis. So Masav Rav Huna bar Chinina Stella shebayam. So you have a rock that's in the ocean. It's 10 tefachim high and 4 tefachim wide. You're not allowed to carry from the water. Again, you have this big rock. It's obviously not the rock of Gibraltar, but it's a big rock sticking out of the water, yeah? And it's 10 tvachim high and 4 tvachim wide, right? You can't carry from on top of that rock to the water, not from the water into that. But if it's less than 10 or less than 4, metaltalin, and you can take on it. Ad kama. How much can you carry, right? Ad beis asayim, until 2 beis saw. So we're basically saying that this rock has the same status as a karfef. So Gemara says, hey, on which case is this going on? When it says ad beis asayim, is that going on the first part of bris or the second part? Ilema safe if it's going on the end of the bris, right, which says that you're allowed to if it's less than 4 or less than 10. Beis asayim tfei loy. Only up to beis asayim, but more than that you can't. Karmelis, the karmelis go metalta. When you carry from the water, we know that the water is a karmelis. We know water is not reshus harabim, and the rock is a karmelis. So who cares? Why can't you go bigger than beis asayim? Elolav, it must be going on the resha where you're not allowed to. V'hachi kamar sela shebiyam. If you have a rock in the water, gavaya asara v'reichav dalit ein metaltalin loy miseichel liyam v'loy minayam l'seichel. You can't carry from it to the water, not from the water to it. Va'ad kama. Until how much can you not? Ad beis asayim. Until beis asayim. Yes, I'm a beis asayim, but if it's bigger than 2 saw, metaltalin, you are allowed to carry, right? Alma karmelis, who, as you see that it's a karmelis, and you're allowed to carry from reshus Rabbin to the karmelis, which we just got finished saying, according to Rabbi Yochanan, that you're not allowed to carry from reshus Rabbin to the karmelis because it's be'etzem a reshus hayochid. So to Rabbi Yochanan, it's a stira to Rabbi Yochanan. Fine. So Rava gives a sharp answer. Well, not a sharp answer, but he gives a sharp reply. Amar Rava, mandala yodit trutzim masnaisa. Whoever, somebody who doesn't know how to answer brises to Yufta Maisav Leila Rabbi Yochanan is going to ask Kashas on Rabbi Yochanan. That's a pretty rough answer he gave right there. Saying you don't know how to be Mataret's brises. What right do you have to be asking on Rabbi Yochanan? Yeah, meaning you don't understand how to say Pshan in the brises. Say La ilaha ma Resha. Really, it's going on the Resha. V'afi Kamar. And this is what it's saying. Inside the rock, meaning on top of the rock, you are allowed to carry. V'ad kama, until how much? Ad beis sasayim, until 2 beis sa. Right? That's how far you're allowed to, that's how much you're allowed to carry. So Memela, it's going on the reshus, so it's not a kasher of Yochanan. Rav Ashi Amar Loyla ma Resha Hein Amru, it's really going, I'm sorry, Loyla ma Resha, it's going on the Resha. Hein Amru be'Hein Amru. It's them saying, and it's them saying. I mean, it's the Rabbanon that are making up these gzeres, right? Because the deraisa, this is not, it's not negay deraisa. Hey, nomru karfef yasim beis asayim shaloy koladira ein metaltalin by elabatal amas. They said that a karfef that's bigger than 2 saw, that was not surrounded for living, you're not allowed to carry in it only in dalet amas. Hey, nomru ein metaltalin mishusayach ler karmelis, and they also said you're not allowed to carry from a shehses to a karmelis. Beis asayim the sharu l'tatul v'kulei asur rabbanon. So 2 saw that you're allowed to carry in the whole thing. The rabbanon said asur rabbanon l'tatul loy minayam l'sachar v'loy misachar liyam. The other rabbanon said you're not allowed to carry from one to the other. My time it reshus gemuri because it's a legitimate reshus. Yes, and Beis asayim does l'tatul v'kulei. But if it's bigger than 2 saw, where it's also for you to carry, shor rabbanon l'tatul misachar liyam minayam l'sachar, that the rabbanon allowed it. Right, so basically, which if they asked you to carry in the karmelis, then they mattered you to carry from one to the other. And if they mattered it, then they and if they asked it, then they mattered. In my timer, maybe it's a reshus hayachid gemura, but people are going to say that it's a reshus hayachid. That's why you'll carry there, and you might end up carrying in the whole thing. So the Chacham were afraid of that. So therefore, they said. That they said you're not allowed to carry from this large karmelis that was not surrounded for living to the reshus Rabbin. Why do you say that? Why don't you say the gzeri the other way around? Meaning we're saying you're not allowed to carry reshus Rabbin to the karfef because you might end up carrying within the karmelis, right? Why don't you say the other way around? Allow carrying the karmelis and allow carrying in the karmelis. Right? How's it go? Allow carrying in the karfef, and then you don't have the issue of going to reshus Rabbin. So the answer is no. Right? To carry inside a karmelis, that's a common thing, or on the rock in the ocean, that's a common thing. But to carry from the water to a rock, right? And from a rock to a water, then it's not common. And same thing with a karfef. Okay, that's a little bit of the hard Gemara. Now we get already into the more Gishmak Gemara. So if the Elam has been a little quiet, which is usually a bad sign, which I can't blame the Elam because it's a little bit of a difficult sugya here. But here, now this next part, again, I'm not saying it's more Gishmak than the other because we're not allowed to do that, but it is. It's
not a Gishmak Gemara.
It's not a Gishmak Gemara. Okay, let's see. Anyway, yeah. So, okay, Hahu Yanuka, there was a child. Now, the way they did it, and we had this in Shabbos, they didn't give a bris unless they bathed the kid in hot water before, right? That was the way they did it back then, right? So, Hahu Yanuka, right? But then what happens when they didn't have the hot water on Shabbos? So now what do? Do you push off the bris? You push off the bris, or you heat up hot water anyways, right? So, Hahu Yanuka, there was a child, not a baby, that his hot water got spilled out. So they had the hot water ready to bathe him with before the bris. and then it spilled out. So Amar Lahu Rabba, Naisile Chamimi Migav Beisai. Let's go bring hot water from my house. Right? Which Rashi says his house was not in the same chutzner. Right? Again, so since his house was not in the same chutzner, you're not allowed to carry from one to the other unless you have an Eruv. So what he was saying is, let's go get it from there anyways.
Why?
Right?
If it was necessary for the bris, why can't he carry it? Same as you carry the knife, right?
Because it's machshirin. It's only machshirin. It's not the knife is what you actually need. This is just machshirin.
You can't do it. Okay.
How could Rabbah have suggested that if it's usher? Rabbah's not me.
No, you're right. He wasn't. You're right. I don't know if I was mashma like that. It's not. He didn't think that it was usher. He just said, let's go get it from another chutzner, meaning he assumed that there was an eruv. Right? I didn't say it correctly. He assumed that there was an eruv. That's what it's right.
Rashi says it's in the same chutzner. I think it was just a different bias. Rashi says it was in the same chutzner.
He was in a different house in a different chutzner. So he assumed that there was an eruv.
What is it? What is this? What is this?
I jumped the gun. I went to the next step of the Gemara before the first step.
What's this? The water, the machshirin is what? Is it derabanan? It's a minhag? What's the?
No, the problem was heating it up.
Turn off the water.
No, but I'm saying, but the water, doing the water is a mitzvah derabanan. It's not a mitzvah. What do
you mean doing it? I don't think it was that. I think it was a medical thing. No.
Medical, yeah.
I thought it was a medical thing.
That it brings here medically. It was medically necessary.
That back then, yeah. Obviously, the mitzvahs changed, but yeah, it seems like back then they had to give hot water onto the baby. I don't know if just the mila area or the whole body. I think in Shabbos we weren't sure about that. Right.
Maybe clean up any germs if they're opening up a wound.
What? It could be.
Clean up any germs.
Yeah, it could be, but I don't know what changed nowadays. Right?
Maybe that's where they got baptism from. So we have to stop it.
You were on Gershon. What?
Maybe that's where the Goyim got baptism from. That's why we had to stop it.
That's a real lumdus. I hear. Okay, that's interesting. Interesting. Maybe.
Would today's version of this be like the Bassitracin or whatever?
Well, Bassitracin is after.
Well,
this is
I thought that's what you were saying. Oh, it's before the.
Oh, this is before. This is before the bris. Right. I think that's what we said. Right. It was. They bathed the baby in hot water before. I think that's what it was.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. So anyway, so what happened was So Rabbah said, let's go get hot water from my house. Amar le Abayev, halay arvina, but we didn't make an eruv. Amar le nismech hashitov. Let's be samech on the shtufei mavui, which we're going to get to in a Mishnah later, which is that, again, there's a bunch of yards open up and they share a street. So I guess they thought that the streets, that all the yards combined to carry in the street. So he said, okay, b'di'evid, let's rely on the streets. Even though this particular chutzner didn't make an error. So he said, they didn't do it either. They didn't combine in the streets either. So then he said, and now here's where the action starts. Let's tell a guy to bring it. Right? That's what do. You go, you ask a guy. Peretz, this is what's negeya. Yeah? So Amar Abaya, I wanted to ask, Abaya said, I wanted to ask a question. Now the assumption is that a guy brought it. Right now, Abaya said, I wanted to ask Rabbah, I wanted to ask Rabbah on this, and Rabbi Yosef didn't let. To Amar Rabbi Yosef, Amar Rav Kahana, Ki Avinu be Rav Yehuda. Why? Because Rabbi Yosef said, B'Shem Rav Kahana, and this is a fascinating thing. Yeah, Ki Avinu be Rav Yehuda, Hava Amarlon, B'Dairaisa Masvinon, Tiyofta, V'Hadar Rav Dinan. On the Dairaisa, you ask your kashas, right? And then Hadar Rav Dinan Maisa. And once you ask your kashas and you have it straight, then you do the Maisa. B'Darabanon Avdinan Maisa V'Hadar Masvinon Tiyofta. Right? We discussed this, I think, yesterday or the day before. By a Darabanon, you could do it and then ask questions. Okay, right here, straight out in the Gemara. Okay, what does this mean here? It says, so by a Daraisa, you got to ask all your questions, make sure you have it clear. But instead of Darabanon Dikadin, then you do the Maisa first and then you ask questions.
We had this yesterday.
And look at Rashi. Rashi says, V'Hadar Masvinon, the bottom line in the Rashi says, V'Hadar Masvinon le Lilmoid im Yafa Hayra. Then you go find out if you said a good psak. Huh? Right? I mean, it's fascinating that
Well, article translated it as that you basically have a you get a psak, but it's just like a makel psak, and then look into it more afterwards. Once you get the psak, you go ahead with it.
Right, and you don't ask questions on a derabbanan. You don't ask questions. Well, here they were paskening. He says, "Im yafa hayra." Rashi says, "Lilmaid im yafa hayra," to learn if You're right. It's the truth is it is a psak, and you don't ask questions on it. You just take the psak and then you go. Now the article does bring a nesivus, which is unbelievable. The nesivus in Choshen Mishpat. That's what the nesivus is on Choshen Mishpat, talking about if a what do you call it? If a shaychet sells by mistake treifa meat to somebody, and the guy wants his money back, does he get his money back or not? So the Shulchan Aruch differentiates between a derabbanon and a deraisa. If it was a issa derabbanon the meat, then he does not get his money back. I'm sorry. No. I'm sorry. I jumped the gun. The Shulchan Aruch says if he ate it, then he doesn't get it back. If he didn't eat it, then he gets it back. Right? I think that's what I'm saying. Right. So then the Nesivus, 1 second, he didn't. No, it doesn't mean he did it on purpose.
Yeah, but he sold him something that he didn't want.
Okay, 1 second. So now the Nesivus says it's totally in the difference whether it's a Dorais or Derabanan. The Nesivus basically comes out and then he brings from this Gemara that you see from here that if somebody was over, listen to this, it's fascinating. If not fascinating any more than the rest of Torah. I can't keep saying it. Just like this din, he's saying that if you're over on a derabanan, if you're over on an issa derabanan b'shoigeg, you're potter. There is no guilt, no nothing based on this Gemara. If you're over on an issa deraisa b'shoigeg, you got to do tshuva. If you're over on an issa derabanan b'shoigeg, the Nesiva says from this Gemara, you are fine. Why? Because otherwise, if you wouldn't be fine, how can you go do something and then clarify what the psak was only afterwards? If you were wrong, you got to do tshuva, right? Again, the Gemara here is saying
you are following a psak.
Good, but you had a kasha on the psak, and maybe the psak, your kasha is a good kasha, and maybe the psak is wrong.
So you're not a shaygate.
You will if you good. Nobody's saying, but Rabbi Yosef is saying not to ask the kasha. He's saying not to ask the kasha. Whatever, it's a major yesod from the Nesivas, right? It's that he says that you don't have to do tshuva if you're over on Issa D'Rabbanan. Now, don't get everybody get excited here that you're going to start eating basa b'cholav and all that, b'shoigeg. Don't close your eyes and go into a restaurant without looking. None of that. That's not going to fly.
I'm going to take the chicken off the pizza.
Did you?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Did you hear me close my car door already? I'm already in the car.
Yeah. So don't do any of that shtick, But
just ordered some chimichurri.
Oh, there you go. We haven't had that discussion in a while. Very good. We haven't gone down that road. Anyway,
a lot of people getting very nervous, though. It's very good.
What?
Get so nervous about things.
You mean you shouldn't get nervous about that?
Half the people arguing about that
this
stuff
should be
don't even
taught,
care.
This should be taught to us in like high school before all the guilt sets in.
100%. No, 100%.
No, we need the guilt. You know where we'd be without the guilt right now?
Be normal.
We'd like be in Boca. If we didn't have the guilt, we'd be in Boca.
Listen, I don't want to crowd this area. You guys got to stay where
very
you're
good. Very good.
You always hear that there's no differences between deraisas and derabanan, but like this is actually a pretty big difference right here.
Yes. Yeah. Now, not everybody agrees to this. But it's but he's saying again, based on this Gemara, that there's no tshuva for being over on Issa D'Rabbanan. B'shoigeg. Okay, b'shoigeg is the main word here. Okay. Anyways, going weiter. So lebasar hachi, after this whole ma'ase. Okay, so now what happened is they had the guy bring the hot water. Fine. Lebasar hachi, Amar lei, my boss lies Vilamar. What was your question? So Amar lei, Tanya, because we learned that the bris hazah, sprinkling when somebody becomes Tomei Meis, you got to sprinkle him with the Efer Chatas, right? So you're not allowed to do that on Shabbos. You're not allowed to sprinkle on a guy on Shabbos. It's a Gemara in Pesachim, right? That's our next Masechta, Be'ezus Hashem, right? That if somebody needs to bring Erev Pesach Shechal B'Shabbos, and a guy needs to bring his korban Pesach, which is a Chi of Karas if you don't bring it, you're not allowed to sprinkle on him because why? Well, let's do the main reason is because you're fixing the person. It's like you're fixing him on Shabbos. Till now he was Tameh, and now he's going to be tar. So even though he's going to end up missing bringing the Karban Pesach, we don't allow it. So, but it's an Issa D'Rabbanan.
Can I ask a question before you? Can I ask a quick question on the first one? How is it not Amir La'akum for them to ask the guy to bring the water?
It is exactly, yes. That's exactly what we're going to get. Yes, that's exactly what we're going to be asking. Yeah, very good. Yeah. So Hazah Shvus, sprinkling is an Issa D'Rabbanan. Va'amira L'Nochri Shvus. And telling a guy to do something is a Shvus. And we know you're not allowed to sprinkle on the guy. It's an Issa D'Rabbanan on Shabbos. So why are we allowed to tell the guy to bring the thing on Shabbos? Right? Mahazah Shvus ve'ein doiches Shabbos. Sprinkling on the person who's Tamei Meis is a Shvus and it's not doiches Shabbos. Even Amir L'Nochri is a shvus and it's not doiches Shabbos. Don't leave now because now if you leave now, then you're talking about that you're never allowed to ask a guy to do anything on Shabbos, right? So Amar Lei, so he told him back, V'loi shani loch bein shvus to isbei maisa l'shvus to lesbei maisa. Do you not differentiate between a shvus that has a maisa in it to a shvus that doesn't have a maisa? Meaning sprinkling has a maisa, right? Telling the guy, that's not a maisa. We know, anybody who learned Makas knows that speaking is a lav she'ein by maisa, right? Just talking, believe it or not, just shooting off your mouth is not considered a maisa, right? Which is interesting because that's what most of the damage in the world comes from people opening their mouths, right? But the bottom line is, the Gemara is saying, and you don't differentiate between an Issa D'Rabbanan like sprinkling that actually has a maisa to a shvus that doesn't have a maisa. Now, these next words are there's a major things to be learned out from the next words. The hamar, loy amar l'nochri zil achim. You didn't tell the guy to heat up the water. All you told the guy to do is bring the water. You didn't tell him to heat up the water. Now, what's going on with those lines? Okay, so now it depends.
How does that answer?
What do you say?
How does that answer the question?
It doesn't answer it. Well, okay, 1 second. So
he's saying bring hot water. He's not telling him how to get the water hot. So he's saying it's an indirect way of doing it.
He didn't say bring hot water. He said bring hot water.
Yeah.
The hamar loy omar l'nochri zil achim. He didn't tell him go heat up the water. All he asked him to do was bring the water. 1 second. Mashma, 1 second. Mashma.
Bring the water or bring the hot water?
What's he
saying?
The
hot water. Bring the hot water. 1 second. Bring the hot water, he said, right? Meaning it's mashma that you would not be able to ask the guy to heat up the water. Let's say there was no hot water left. Would you be able to ask the guy to heat up the water? No, you would not. Right? Because that's an Isser Daraisa.
Also, you can't ask a guy to do something that's a malcha for you anyway.
Well, that's what we're getting at. That's exactly what we're getting at. So here,
but midaraisa d'Rabbanan, it doesn't make a difference.
No, it's an Isser D'Rabbanan to ask a guy to do an Isser Daraisa. It's an Isser D'Rabbanan to ask a guy to do work.
But even if even the malacha was D'Rabbanan, you still can't ask the guy to do it for you.
Correct. So now,
but what's the Isser if he's doing a D'Rabbanan?
No, so that's exactly what we're getting at. Let's see. That's exactly what we're getting at.
He's saying indirectly. He's saying, boy, it's hot in here. I wish the air conditioner was.
No, I didn't say it that way. He said it doesn't say it. He said,
saying, get me hot water. He said, go
bring the hot water. He said to go bring the hot water, right?
And even indirectly, if the guy does not have any benefit from it, no matter how indirect, Amir al-Akim is still usher.
Correct. But not for a tzarech.
It's a big misnomer in the industry. You're right. I'm saying that the guy doesn't have.
And to hear that from a Hatzalah guy, that's really something. Yeah,
we just don't care about Amir al-Akim.
Because you Amir al-Yisrael, you guys do. But
forget about heating the water. What about just bringing the water? Wasn't the problem that they didn't have an Eruv to begin with? So why are we so talking about?
Oh, okay, good, very good. So now let's get it straight. Very good. 1 second. So let's go with the girsa, the hamar loy omar l'nochi zil achim. Basically, what he's saying is, what did you tell the guy to do? All you told the guy to do is be over an issa d'Rabbanan, because if you don't have an eruv, to carry without an eruv is an issa d'Rabbanan. So all you asked the guy to do is an issa d'Rabbanan. We did not ask him to do an issa d'Raisa, right? Which is the way we paskin, that it's very difficult to get a heter to ask a guy to do an Isser Doiraisa on Shabbos for you, right?
It's a cholish.
Well, right, but this is not a here by the bris. He wasn't a chayla yet, the baby. Just don't make the bris.
He's not
right?
yet a chola.
Correct, but this hot water was you washing him before. But the point is, if you go with this,
even a Jew could do for a chayla sheyesh b'sakana anyway. So it's not a
right. No, it's not anybody. He said ain't b'sakana, but right. But yesh about it. Again, if you goyrus like this, which is what some Rishonim are goyrus, then you're not allowed to ask a guy to do it as a deraisa. However, you see that little aleph from the Bach, and the Bach takes out that sentence. Okay? The Bach takes out that sentence. Okay? Now, all that means, according to the Teretz, according to this Bach, is you don't differentiate between a shvus that has a maisa to a shvus that doesn't have a maisa, meaning sprinkling is an isur derabanan that a yid is actively doing. Asking a guy is not a maisa. So according to that, you are allowed to ask a guy to do an isur deraisa on Shabbos. Right? Because talking is not a maisa. You hear this? This Bach is as major a Bach as you're going to get in Shas. Comes out according to this Bach, the Gemara's teretz is you do not differentiate between a maisa, which sprinkling the ashes on a tamei mace is action, and differentiate between that and telling a guy that just bring me the hot water, which is just.
But in other parts
no
we say
action.
Speaking is a maisa.
Speaking is not a maisa.
But we say in another Gemara that it is. You told me that. When it came to Avram Avinu's sheep or cattle were grazing and he yelled at them and they stopped.
Right. So
we see there that you can't use Siri on Shabbos.
Yes, right. Very good, Jesse. That's a part of the issue of using Siri on Shabbos, is talking a maisa, is talking not a maisa. Right? But that's talking, causing somebody else, causing your animal to do a maisa. Here, it's all you're doing is asking the guy to do a maisa, and that's not a maisa. Whatever it is, according to the Bach's version of this Gemara, you are allowed to ask a guy to do an Isser Daraisa for you on Shabbos. In which case, Peretz, are you here? Is Peretz around? All right, he's out. He'll have to listen to the recording.
That his kid was good last week.
That's exactly right. Those guys
I'm trying. I'm here. I'm here.
That means, according to this, the kids that are being driven around an hour after Shkia, all they did is ask the guy to drive for them. No problem, according to this. According to the Bach, the Bach's version of this Gemara, it's no problem because all you did was ask a guy to do something. Whatever. Anyways, but that's the point.
As long as you got into the taxi from before Shabbos.
No, even if you get in on Shabbos.
Even if you called an Uber, that's a maisa.
Well, no, that's a maisa, but somehow
didn't Jared
just not with Siri
right to the inauguration?
Yeah. So listen, bottom line is we don't paskin like this. So you're not allowed to ask a guy to do an Isser Daraisa, except in desperate situations we will rely on this opinion that allows you to ask a guy to even be over on an Isser Daraisa. If it's a major situation, like it's guests, etc., that type of thing,
what's the Isser Daraisa by the water? I don't understand what's the Isser Daraisa.
Which with the water?
The water with the bris.
Heating it up. Heating up the
Theoretically,
water.
if you asked them to heat it up. Let's say they didn't have any
water.
You
asked them to bring hot water. So maybe he found hot water, no?
No, and a chanami, right? But the Gemara, if you go to the next with the Hamar, loy omar lenachri zil ochim, right? That's right. If you have that, so the Gemara's answer is you didn't tell the guy to heat up water. Meaning, had you told the guy to heat up water, it would be usher. You wouldn't allow him to. But the Bach takes out those 7 words. The Bach takes out. So all to Mela, according to him, he says Amirul Akum is not a maisa, and that's mutter, having nothing to do with what you're asking. You can ask the guy whatever you want, as long as it's just.
But asking a guy to do something that's usher for me, that's the problem. It's
Correct.
not us for the guy, obviously.
Right. It's right.
Couldn't they get out all this by just doing Amira?
Who says Amir al-Amir works?
I don't know. I thought you told me that one time that Amir al-Amir
It
is
depends
better.
on the situation. We start piling up the coolers and doing Amir al-Amir.
No, it's
But
a
it's not.
fake sveka, and then it's okay.
Well, yeah, and then don't ask questions and do it, and then for sure, right?
So then all of the Tanaim of Amir La'akim, you don't have to do, according to this, you wouldn't have to do any of the Tanaim, even for a Deraisa, even if it's not a Tzarech Mitzvah, you could just do Amir La'akim?
Yeah, according to this, yes. Yeah.
Right, the Bahag.
Which we do rely on it in a very, very, in very desperate situations. We do use this opinion to, okay, what would be a scenario? As somebody made a simcha and there was a blackout and shut off all the cholents or whatever, and there's going to be no food for 100 guests. And the only way to get it is to get the guy to turn back on the crock pots, which is an Issa Daraisa, because the crock pot gets hot, so gets red hot. So Mamela, that would be a scenario where maybe because for the tzarech we would even allow an Issa Daraisa.
If you hint
right?
to a guy,
then you have bishul problem.
No?
What is? It would be a bishul. No, assuming that it's already cooked, a third of the way or halfway. What are you saying, Zev?
If you hint to the guy, it becomes
a hinting to the guy is not allowed only in very specific situations. Most situations, hinting to the guy is not allowed. Hinting is even if the guy comes and turns on the crock pots himself without asking you, you're not allowed to be nene from it unless you have a heter from it for it.
Rabbi, what if a crock pot actually doesn't get amber red hot? Like you can't actually.
Then it would be a derabanan.
Because
You're saying. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What are you saying, Avi?
I'm finished.
Crock pots actually get red hot.
The coils inside, not the inside the inside the mechanism, inside the heating element doesn't get red hot.
I don't think they get red hot.
I don't know.
Does it depend on the setting? If it's on low or high?
Setting is different. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
I think the difference between low and high is one coil or two coils. But the coils have some kind of asbestos-looking coating on the outside, and I'm not sure if they actually...
No, but okay, so that could be nowadays they make the metal that it doesn't get red hot, but that's because they're coating it with something.
I think Avi has to take apart his crock pot.
If you have a non-Jewish shamish in a shul, right? You're not shamish. You have a custodian in a shul, and he's turning on lights and turning off lights and changing the air and all that stuff. That's all a problem?
Sure.
So how do you get around
that? What?
How do you get around that?
Because they say for a tzarech rabbim, and you ask him before Shabbos, and all sorts of shticks that you do.
You get around it. Don't go to shul. Stay home like we're doing now.
Right. You already told us not to move to Boca, so.
I understand, but I'm already here.
No, you
have a problem.
No, but he doesn't because this Gemara bailed him out. You're supposed to do and then ask. What do you? Don't ask. That's all. Right? Don't ask. Don't tell. Finish.
Maybe all these things are a groma anyway. I don't know.
I could, but whatever. You could start using all sorts of terutzim and all that, but the bottom line is, the common thing that everybody is aware is that it's a derabanan to ask a guy, and to ask a guy to do a derabanan is a double derabanan. So there we allow it. If it's a tzarech Shabbos, tzarech chayla, well chayla not even, but a tzarech Shabbos, tzarech mitzvah, you could ask a guy, which is an issa derabanan, to do a derabanan. Right? That's the common thing. But to do it in a deraisa, that already is not. That's.
Do you remember such a psak from your father about, let's say, the guy in your house washing dishes?
Yeah, I don't know what psak you're saying, but.
That you're allowed, if the guy comes, if you have a guy you're helping in the house,
right?
He's allowed to wash the dishes on Shabbos?
Yes.
Why?
With hot water, because the hot water is for the guy. That's a whole different
story. What about the schita? What about all the...
That's all for the guy. The guy could theoretically wash the dishes without doing that. So the guy is doing that for themselves.
He's doing it for you.
No, but to do the schita and to turn on the hot water is benefiting himself, because theoretically he could wash the dishes with cold water, and without the sponge, it'll just take him an extra 10 minutes. So when he's doing it with the sponge and hot water, that's for his own good.
Why is he allowed to do it for you?
He's not doing. He can wash it for me with cold water. He can wash it for me with cold water and get it done. It just takes him an extra.
Shabbos period.
What's the matter with washing dishes? Nothing. No issur. There's no issur. No. I could wash it with my hand. There's no schita.
I understand, but he's.
That when he does it with a sponge, that's for his own good to make it easier on himself. That's his ASIC, not mine.
Shabbos sponges.
Right. Or okay. So let's see a little bit later. Go ahead.
On Yontif, someone I was with, their wife wanted to take a picture of the kids on Sukkot, and they gave it to the Ma'aseh, right? They didn't ask. Okay, so what first happened was
it's a derabanan.
They had the cleaning lady. Take a picture of them on Yontif, and he said, "Oh, it's his wife's Einig Shabbos, Einig Yontif, to have the pictures taken." So now, according to this, I know you get, but really, according to this,
yeah, according to the Bahag, who we don't paskin like, it works. It works according to the Bahag. Now, taking a picture, by the way, could be worse, because we know what happens if a guy does do malach of you on Shabbos. You're not allowed to benefit from it till when? Till after Shabbos. It takes, let's say, an hour for him to cook the challah, for you, so you have to wait an hour. A picture is infinite, right? Meaning,
but it only takes a second to take the picture.
That's
so
true,
as
but
long
the
as
scenario,
But as long as it takes for the person to take the picture.
No, but the kid, so get the kids out of bed, dress them back up again, and then take the picture.
No, the time it takes.
No, but it's not the time, because a picture is forever, right? Unless you erase it. It's forever, meaning it's not.
Let's say
no,
dishwasher, whatever it is. You wait the time that it would have taken you to clean those dishes.
No, let's say a guy comes into my house and cooks me an omelet. Okay, well, let's say without bishalah, I turn on the fire from before Shabbos. Fire's on. He comes and he cooks me an omelet. Motzei Shabbos, I'm allowed to eat it when? 2 minutes after Shabbos, because it takes 2 minutes to cook an egg. Let's say, right?
Okay, right.
But he comes in and takes a picture in my house of me. No, because the scenario never. That picture was taken on Shabbos. It could be awesome.
Who cares? It takes you 2 seconds to take another picture.
But you can't take that picture now. The scenario is no longer there.
Why not? You can get dressed back. Why can't you get back in those clothes?
So if you do that, then fine. But
how long would that take? But it's not.
I don't think
it
doesn't
work
like
that. How long it would take?
It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that.
Why isn't the same thing if someone cooks you an omelet? Let's say a guy cooks you a steak on Yontif. That situation of eating
that steak you'll never get back. That exact steak.
I'm sure you can know, but that actual steak becomes mutter 15 minutes after Shabbos.
Oh, it's the same steak.
That actual steak becomes mutter. The picture, what are you saying? This actual picture he took becomes mutter when? It happens to me somebody was making me mashug about this shaila. I grada thought that there would be an issue because somebody was asking me about this after Yom Tov. And I know I came up with a heter because I had it once when my sister went into the hospital first day's Yom Tov to have a baby. And our neighbors, back when we had Goyish neighbors, till Rabbi Forrest came and bought that house, right? And built the shul over there. So we had Goyish neighbors who we were friendly with. And we were afraid they didn't have food. It was a 3-day Yom Tov. So that's mutter, even though it's an Issa Daraisa, but it's for a chayla. You're allowed to send. That's a good case, right? Even though it's Issa Daraisa to drive a car. But we asked the guy to do it, to bring food for them. They come back with pictures of the baby. We didn't even know it was a boy or a girl, right? But they came back with all sorts of pictures. I'm thinking, this is not good. This is not good.
Yeah, but they did that for their benefit.
So that's what they claimed.
They
wanted to take pictures. Baby. That's what they claimed. They were happy to take pictures. I don't know. Whatever. Okay. Anyways, let's go a little bit weiter. Yeah.
One question.
Yeah.
So in extreme circumstances, this Bach is music to your ears? Well, move on.
Very good. Okay, I got it. Did anybody get that joke? Get that joke?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Now, this next line, Rabbaran, this is for you. This next line is mamish. Amalei Rabba bar of Chanan Labai. Because what was the case here? They didn't have an Eruv. There was no Eruv made. Amalei Rabba bar of Chanan Labai. Mavua de ispe trey gavri ravrabe karabonon loy lahavi be loy Eruv loy shitov. Is it possible that a town or whatever, a yard with such gedolim didn't have an Eruv? Right? How could it be? Which the Paiskim learned from this, that it's a mitzvah to have an Eruv in cities. Cities should have Eruvin to take away Chil Shabbos or for these type of situations. That not necessarily you should use it, but it should have it. Right? That's what they bring for this. So Amrlei, So they said to him, my never, what should I do? Mar lav orche. For one of them, it's not the, what is he going to do? Knock on the gadol is supposed to knock on everybody's door, say, hey, everybody give in some bread, right? And I'm not tritna begirsa, me, I'm busy learning, right? And inu loy mashkechi, the other people they don't care, they don't care. Vi akni le pita basala, and if I'm going to give them a little bread in the basket, kivan to eat bo le minoi, since if they're going to ask from me, meaning basically what you're doing when you make an error is everybody's giving into the pot. Right, so if they were to ask from me to take from me from the pot, he said, I don't have money. I wouldn't be able to give them. Meaning we're all sharing. So if they're going to come to me and ask me, I'm not going to have. So then bitul shitov, the whole shitov is bitul, and it doesn't work. The Tanya, if we all get together to make one big eruv, and then somebody comes and says, can I have some of the yayin or shemen that they're using for the eruv, and I don't give it to him, then the whole thing is busted. Right, so therefore, it wasn't possible for me to even be the one to make the eruv, and the olam just didn't care.
See,
right?
my time from last week, and I mean, I don't know enough, but I'm right. You can't make an eruv in New York State. Plain push it.
Oh, because of the whole political situation.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yanachanami. So then he says, okay, for Niklu ma revius of the challah b'chavis. Okay, why don't you just give him in your barrels? Why don't you just give him a revius of vinegar, and you'll know that will be part of it, right? So he says, Tanya, ein mishtatim ba'oitzer. No, because we learned that you're not allowed to bake a shituf with a oitzer. You can't use stuff from your storage house, right? Because you don't know. It's in your storage house. I mean, the whole point of this shituf is everybody gives in some money, or it's not money, bread, wine, whatever it is, and everybody is part of the big pot. But if it's in your oitzer, how are you going to know? So the Gemara says, "Vatanya mishtatim." But we learned in the bris that you can combine with stuff in the storage house. This is one is Beishamai or Beis Hillel. One bris that says you could be mishtatif with stuff from the storage house is Beishamai, and one is Beis Hillel. Right, now what's a pshat? And we had this before. Now, the din with a mace, right? If you have a mace that has to leave a house, so whichever doorway you take the mace out of, that doorway is going to become tummy mace. Meaning in the actual house that you have the mace, avada, that's all tummy. Right? Anything that's in there, that's tummy. But the door, let's say you have a door leading out to another house. So that door is also going to become tummy, but only the door that leads out of that, you take the mace out of that house. Out of that door. So let's say a house has many doors. You don't know which door it's going out. So the Tana mace babai is v'loy psachim harbin has many doors. Kulan tamein, they're all tummy. Niftach echad mehen hu tummy v'kulan tamein. But if there's one of them gets opened up, right, then that opening becomes tummy and the rest become tar. Chishav loitzia be'echad, if he thinks to take it out from one, or through a window that's 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim, matzal al kol psachim, then all the other doors are kol psachim kulan. All the other doors are mutter. No, but he had to think. As the person's dying, he had to say, oh, we're going to take the mace out this door. In which case, only that door becomes tummy, and all the other ones don't become tummy. Even you can even decide which door after the mace dies, you can go out that way, which is just a case of brera. So what do you see? That according to Beis Shammai, you have to decide before which one it's going to. So Mela, with the eruv too, you can't use wine or vinegar that's in your storage house, because how do you know which vinegar is going to be part of the eruv? You don't know. You have a whole storage house of it. But according to Beis Hillel, as long as you know that part of that storage house is going to be part of eruv, then that would work. Okay, fine. We could stop here. Have it says, so what time tomorrow? What time is 5:15? 5:15? Does that make sense? The pension's probably about 10 to 6. No, we're only going to do for like 20 minutes. So let's say 5:20. 5:20, yeah. Okay, 5:20 tomorrow, Bez Hashem. Fine.
Very good. Chicago.
Okay. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.